Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hey friends, and welcome back to another episode of Genuine Business Stories, where we have real front porch chats that inspire success. I'm your host, Clint Strom, and today we're sitting down with somebody special who truly represents what it means to lead with purpose, serve with heart, and build impact across multiple areas. Today our guest is Janice Thigpen, a University of Houston graduate, a seasoned realtor serving the Houston and Magnolia and Montgomery County areas since 2012, with multiple professional designations and a leader deeply rooted in our community. But Janice's story goes well beyond real estate. She currently serves as the chairman of Love Hills Youth, sits on the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District Board, and is a wish granter for Make-A-Wish, helping bring hope and joy to children in critical illnesses. She's also an active member of Southwest Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, and that is where I met Janice as we both work and serve our community through our Chamber of Commerce. She's also now stepping up a new chapter in her life, and she's launching her own 55-plus focused podcast, It's Just Tea, where real conversations meet life experience. I love the fact that you hit us old people in that. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into the journey of Janice Thigpen. Hey, Janice, how are you doing?
Good morning, Clint. I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good. Glad that you're here. So let's kind of dive into your early journey before you started real estate. Tell us what kind of got you started and what headed you in that direction.
Well, in a previous life, I worked with a group of guys that we built, managed, and maintained radio stations, and we were always looking for transmitter sites. You know, the ground was what was important with AM radio stations. So that, and then just wanting to make a change, I thought, well, we always were looking for land, so let's take a look at maybe looking at real estate for this next venture in my life. So that's really what prompted it. Now, I could go back to my childhood while I sat there and designed houses. I opened up the Houston Chronicle on the Saturday mornings and looked at all the new homes in the area, and I would sit there and make my own floor plans. So I was either destined to be an architect or maybe a realtor.
Any entrepreneurial aspirations as a kid?
No, except for all the fundraisers we had to do. All the, will you buy a candle? Will you buy this wrapping paper? That was it.
So it did give you a sales background.
I guess so, and I didn't realize
Little
it at the
League,
time.
Girl Scouts.
No, none of that. No,
No?
just school. But yeah, Mom sold Tupperware for a little side hustle. But
That stuff's amazing. My mom still has some
is it still
of that.
around?
I need a lettuce crisper that they had with Tupperware. It had this little thing in the bottom, and you put your lettuce in it, and after you rinsed it, and it didn't get as brown as quick as when you put it in a Ziploc or just another thing. And I've got to find one of those.
I saw Tupperware at Costco. They have a packet, and I'll have to look to see what all is included in that box.
Of course, because I just gave that membership up when I went. I didn't use it enough for what it cost me. University of Houston, kind of what led you there, and did you graduate with your degree for radio stations
No.
and media?
No.
Or?
I must have been an independent thinker back then because went to U of H, decided to stay home, had lots of friends trying to convince me to go to A&M. I'm like, no, I'm going to, I'll stay here, be closer to house. And I got a psychology degree thinking I was going to go and work on my master's, or what better person to understand the way consumers think, people think, to help make businesses and all that I'm just going to get a psychology degree, because if I can understand that, then I can help businesses and all that. Little did I know I was trying to create my own business plan, which didn't work at the university. So but went down the psychology route with lots of businesses.
Now where the rest of us will speculate, people we're talking to are crazy, you actually know.
I know. Could
You
be.
don't have to guess. You've got an education saying, no, that person's crazy.
Just sit there and smile. Yeah.
So for the University of Houston, that would have put you would have You wouldn't have been there yet, but were you a Five Slamma Jamma fan?
I was there for the run and shoot where Andre Ware was quarterback. And I remember sitting in the Astrodome. And whenever we would play UT, that was still during the Southwest Conference.
Yes.
So, I'm playing all the big schools. The crowd was enormous always for, A&M and UT. And, but it was always awesome to sit there with friends that would come into town and when we would beat them. Because Andre the score was always up there and it was always exciting.
Yeah, I remember as a kid watching Phi Slamma Jamma with Akeem and Clyde. So when those two reunited as a young adult with the Rockets, I was pretty happy.
Kind of fun. Yeah.
So who did you find that influenced you or has been a mentor to you growing up?
Oh, wow. One person that I always go back to was my third grade teacher because I remember her sitting down and just not explaining how the world worked or why it's important to do this or why it's important to do that. But Mrs. Payne was, I still think of her whenever of all the teachers, probably can go back to her.
My favorite teacher was kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Can I ask why was kindergarten?
I was the only student Mrs. Carr ever gave swats to the first week of school.
What did you do to warrant?
She told me to do something, and I looked at her and I said, "You're not my mom. I don't have to mind you." And she's like, "Clint, I'll call your mom." And I'm like, "I'll answer the phone and hang up on you." "Clint, I will send your mom and dad a letter. I'll take the letter and I'll throw it away."
This was in kindergarten?
Kindergarten. And she took me out and gave me swats. And I remember just screaming, "I don't want to go to the baby class," because it was kind of, we were the older class, and then there was another class that was younger. So it was kind of the baby class. And
so she put you down to the baby class. That bothered you more than the SWAT.
No, that's what she brought that teacher out to see me get swats. And she told my mother, because as life went on, she was also my 8th grade English teacher. But her son, Carl Carr, he was a teaching assistant. But Carl, in his now wife, but they were friends with mom and dad at church. So, there ended up being that tie back where Carl and dad were friends. And,
okay.
But it was still, she was also my 8th grade teacher, but I absolutely loved her.
That's funny.
I'm different. I had a coach in 8th grade, Coach McGinney. He's the only coach that ever gave me swats. He was my favorite coach. I am big on respect, so come earn your respect. I'm glad I grew out of it, because as a grown man, I'd hate to be getting booked all the time for friends.
I was going to say, you'd be we might see you someplace on maybe Montgomery County Reporter if you spoke to the wrong person that way.
They'd interview me and go, "What happened?" "Oh, it's my new best friend." "You look pretty whoop." He earned my respect.
Well, that was when they still did SWATs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And then did you get in trouble when you went home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. There was a rule: if I got in trouble at school,
Got in trouble at home.
I got in trouble at home.
You were an independent thinker there and self-confident.
I was, but I am also very high on taking responsibility. And my mother and I had this talk because I was trying to figure out what about people frustrates me. And it is individuals that are entitled, that tell the rest of us we owe them something that they didn't work for, and individuals that never take responsibility. We may not like what happens in life, but it doesn't change the fact that we're still responsible for what we did to create that situation and to work hard to fix it. And that's just kind of what I realized were my foundations. And, Alicia, my fiance, would laugh and go, "You've told me before that I can annoy you." And I went, "It's nothing serious." I said, "All my friends would tell you with my personality I get annoyed, but I don't care. It's not that annoyance where you're mad at somebody. You're just like, you're really being annoying with that mouth." And she'll go, "Well, you're always annoying with your mouth." And I'm going, "I understand that, baby." But, so.
Yeah, be careful. You're still in the trial period until the wedding date. The wedding day.
I cook for her. I take care of her. She is my world, her and my daughter, my grandkids, son-in-law, now her daughters, I guess, and son. So, no, I pick on her. She picks on me. That's what's good about it. And believe me, she picks more than me because she's funnier than me.
That's funny.
And any of my female friends that I introduce her to, she laughs and goes, I'm fixing to take this friend from you.
Oh, funny.
And she does.
We need to do dinner one day.
Yeah, you should. So, what are some foundational lessons that you've learned?
Oh, that puts me on the spot. Probably, the respect.
Yeah.
And that probably, I was probably raised the same way. You respect people, treat others as you want to be treated. And most of my business and in my personal life, that's what I do. I'm going to treat you the way I want to be treated, and respect, and show you respect, because if you take the time to spend time with me, then I'm gonna honor that. I always ask God to place the right words in my brain, on my lips, in my heart, so I can be a good representation of who He is and what He is.
Yeah, I figured out that probably the minute I get to heaven as a Christian, Mom says I'll be so in awe I won't speak anything. And I said, Mom, I think it's because He's going to put me in timeout the minute I get there. Clint, mouth closed, go sit over there. I'll get to you once I'm through with millions of other people.
Oh.
So your real estate career, you started that after radio.
Yes.
And did you start in with homes, or did you start in with land, like what you initially was looking
with homes? We, just basically started reaching out and telling everybody, hey, I've made this transition. Because before that, I worked in the insurance industry doing...
I'm sorry, that's what I do.
I know. Well, sales, I didn't make it to sales. I did attorney negotiated claims. And so...
See, I always knew you were smarter than me.
No, I don't know. That was a very interesting time. I met a lot of great attorneys, believe it or not, and talked to a lot of great people. And I got to help come up with a solution for people who've experienced a loss. So with real estate, I get the pleasure of helping people figure out what their next step is. Do they, what kind of house? What works for their lifestyle? What works for their family? What their needs are? Because all are, we different times of our lives, we have different needs. You may need that living room and game room when you have kids.
Yeah.
Or, you may decide, I want to downsize after all these years. I'm tired of cleaning bathrooms. Two's enough. So, get something smaller. And then with Houston, Texas, we're such a car-driven community. Nobody wants to give up their automobile, and I'm one of them. I mean, I may have one driving for me when I'm sitting in it when it's driving, but, we're so spread out. And so being raised in Houston, Mom and Dad moved to Houston in the 40s after World War II. They lived in the Heights, and then they moved a little bit further out to North Houston. But I recognize that there's different parts of town that I'm still very familiar with, that I like to go back to. I saw an article on LinkedIn, the gentleman that's head of the Woodlands right now, Howard Hughes right now, he mentioned how Northwest Mall is being torn down. And I remember spending many an hour at Northwest Mall when I was in high school. And now as things transition, and with the Heights, how you used to have quarter acre lots in the Heights, now you have you may have a quarter acre, but it's got 8 houses on it. Mm-hmm. And so just how our area is changing, the counties that surround Montgomery County, between Harris, Fort Bend, Waller, we're just seeing such an explosion in growth that it's like putting a puzzle together. You get to sit down, have a conversation, and figure out where do we need to be right now.
Yeah, they are changing. There was Northwest Almeda Mall and Gulfgate Mall with my mom's mom. She'd take me to Gulfgate for movies, or sometimes Almeda, which over on that side of town. And then I grew up with the Willowbrook Mall, but we watched Greenspoint that's now shut down. Mm-hmm. Willowbrook is not the same mall, I would say, as when I was growing up in the late 80s. And now we've got the Woodlands it's incredibly busy, but I've started watching some transitions in that mall where when it hits dark 30, I will not hesitate to ask my daughter or fiance not to go to the mall at dark, and I mean, it's sad. It wasn't that way. At least for me, that was a big hangout.
Oh, yeah.
Mom and Dad, where are you going? We're going to the mall. That's where you met girls, walking up and down the mall. So.
Well, my first job was at Kenny's shoe store at Greenspoint Mall before it was before anything bad started happening at Greenspoint.
Yeah.
And yeah,
We do change. A lot of people go online.
shopping is different these days.
And to me, one thing that COVID changed that frustrates me is stuff if I'll go online because I need something that day, I'm working a project. That news for all the big box stores. I'm not looking for you to ship something in for me in a week. It means that's the day I had time. I'm working on the project, and whomever is going to have it in stock, I'm getting it so I can come back and finish that project. It's not to finish it a week later. But on the business side, if nobody's buying it, then why are you going to pay to stock it? You'll wait until somebody gets it. So, I mean, I understand both sides, but it ain't going to change the fact that I'm kind of old, which means I like things old school,
Well, we were just talking about the blue laws, about how, a long time ago, Sundays, you don't shop on Sundays, or
That's
certain
true.
sections of the stores were closed on Sundays.
Yeah.
And that, many kids were upset when they couldn't get bicycle parts on Sunday afternoon.
I'm not advocating for this, but the one thing that gives me humor is the fact that liquor stores still have to remain closed on Sunday. And I'm not advocating for them to be open, but everything else is open. Adult stores, novelty stores, and everything I believe is still open. But I can't go to a liquor store if I'm having friends over to buy anything. And, I get it, but I think it's a whole lot of it still makes some of our politicians feel good at the state levels. Going, we're not going to do this. We're going to do everything else, but we're not going to do this. And but I've watched a lot of stuff on prohibition here lately. Some of the older stuff, and I've thought, you realize that wasn't other countries. It was a lot of just our nation with prohibition.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a politics question. That's a politics.
No, but the shows are interesting because
Yeah.
it's the history of our nation and things that happen. And I tend to be a history buff of former presidents, former times in the country, those that built our country, with those type of entrepreneurs. And it's amazing the power that they had, too.
Oh,
I would not have wanted to be an insurance agent or a real estate agent when the Carnegies and those controlled things. Because if you made them mad,
that was it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think I watched on How It's Met. Was it the Titans or whatever that
Yes,
show was
that
called?
one I watched. I
Very
loved it.
interesting. Very interesting.
So, what were some of your early challenges in real estate?
When you're self-employed and you're trying to grow a business, staying in contact, communication, follow-up, those were driven. It's, with technology, we have the MLS, which is great. You talk to people in other countries. They don't have the same place to go where everything is put together. Our, Houston area realtors have a wonderful database of listings where we can go and see all the houses that are listed and decide what we're going to see. And they've done a really good job in the state coming together for the different cities too. So we can see the same in Dallas and Austin and Fort Worth. But as far as running, a business is a business. And so you have to, stay in contact with clients. You have to meet new clients. You have to, show the love to your clients. It's a relationship business. And I don't think you take that out of any business. To be successful, there is some type of relationship going on somewhere in that business. Yeah. But that's what I love. I love loving my clients. Like just the other day, I did little pop buys. I have been so fortunate to get to have a bunch of Coast Guard clients.
Well, that is super.
My coasties. I love to learn so much about my coasties, and their majority of them are down south. So I went down to Pasadena, Seabrook, Lake City, Friendswood, and Texas City on Friday, and dropped off little things at their doors. But they're a great branch of the military that gets forgotten about. So, shout out to my coasties because they are respectful. They're hard workers. We have a Coast Guard station on Lake Conroe.
They're responsible.
They're responsible. Yeah, and I love them. So, and I just thought Coast Guards were out in the ocean. But wherever there's a body of water, there's going to be a Coast Guard station because there's a coast. So
Never thought about it that way.
I never did.
I did know that they serve a purpose on Lake Conroe and some of the other lakes, but I never had thought about, you tend to, I think salt water.
Yeah, exactly.
And even from the years at Conroe and other lakes, you see them out there, they're Coast Guard, but until you said it, it did not relate to me that you're right. I think it goes back to Guardian, the Kevin Costner movie.
I haven't seen that movie.
Oh, that movie's actually good for those of us that don't know anything about the Coast Guard. It was off of Alaska, and it was about the Coast Guard and rescue and how they're deployed.
Okay.
I think with Kevin, it was probably a pretty good movie version. That's not a documentary, but I think that they tried to keep it entertaining but fairly close, to where you weren't watching a bunch of sci-fi.
Okay. Well, I know they work hard at protecting, and they're a branch that gets forgotten about.
Yeah.
And I've encouraged my great nephews that have spent time in the ROTC and not know what branch of the military if they'd want to go into. I'm like, you need to think about the Coast Guard. Y'all are great swimmers. Not that you have to. I don't know if the swim requirement is there or not, but you're great swimmers. So why not think about this? But they do a lot besides standing on a boat deck on water.
I've always loved and support our military, but when we go back to that first conversation about authority, and that
couldn't do it.
I knew early on, do not go into the military because I do not have a sit down and shut up personality. Sometimes I think our chamber probably wishes that I'd sit down and shut up.
No, I think Terry appreciates you bringing things to question because, that's where ideas are born.
Well, Terry's incredibly smart, and he's been on the show here, and he's done a lot. And I joked with another friend of mine and went, if you're around Terry, you have to choose not to learn because he doesn't do it in a manner to teach you. But there's so much about business, little things, if you listen to him that you can go, that may help, and just gives you at least some ideas to ponder.
That's a good word, ponder. Yeah, I can see that.
Don't ask me to spell it without ChatGPT.
No.
So tell me a little bit about the evolution. You started in 2012. I can remember that by the time I was 32, I had owned 3 homes. 2 of them I'd had built, and the first one that I bought was very young, was at barely 21. And our world since that last home that I bought has changed a whole lot. I've moved around for business and stuff, for various reasons. But when you sell your last home and you leave for business and you do other stuff, or you go through a divorce or something, you never sit back and think that life will take you around various parts and you'll just live an apartment life because it's never your thought. But each time you think, you go, I don't want to settle down here. It's not where I want to build. And then lo and behold, we have COVID, and then you watch, and even with insurance, I watch what happened with homeowners' insurance rates and property taxes and homes where you could buy in the close to 200s and still buy a fairly nice home. And then you look now that's pushing 300. And so what have you seen through all this evolution? What do you see and how it affects your customers?
Well, it's funny you said that. You said 3 homes by the time you were 30. Same here. I think I had purchased 3 homes by the time I was 33, 34. And now we're seeing, we're definitely seeing prices have gone up. But I'm also seeing a lot of new builds coming on the market that are in the low to mid 200s. So we're readjusting back. COVID caused crazy occurrence because we had access to so much free money with rates being so low, so unrealistic. I mean, hindsight being 2020, I wish I at that point would have taken advantage of all my sources and said, I'm going to go buy me 3 or 4 houses and had this as a plan.
Yeah.
But I think with this adjustment that we're seeing with rates coming down, maybe going back up when we got into Iran, now they're adjusting downward again. I mean, it's volatile because it just depends on what the stock market does. It depends on what, the bond market, all these things that influence mortgage rates, has an effect on how people perceive what they can afford or what they can't afford.
That's something that I notice with our community, municipal bonds and bond rates and how things work. I've held multiple FINRA securities license, so that was something that we were trained in. I'm not going to lie, it's been quite a few years, but that foundation is there. And I have watched our community get up in arms over certain things, and I've sat back and went, there are things you do not understand that you should probably ask friends about instead of making assumptions, posting stuff on your social media, going, don't do this.
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
You're talking out of opinion while you're trying to give other people your opinion that is not fact, and that's the one thing that can be very confusing, that you see bond ratings, AAA versus AA plus. I don't think most people realize. I think it started in 2011, but now everything the federal government does is AA plus.
Okay.
It is no longer AAA bond rated. It is a AA plus, which is a very good rating, but AAA was excellent, and then it's really, really, really good. So your yield isn't really large in most cases. It's very small, but it's still things where you see that people don't understand the difference that it made, or municipal bonds for building schools, because, you see a lot more of this than a lot of us do as people are buying, and the aspirations of new developments with new schools. Why can't they pay for them? They're not going to. The taxpayers that buy in there will ultimately help pay for the facilities, but no developer is going to come to your area and go, here's $30 million, go build a new school. I mean, that's just thinking out of what we'd all love to do, but it's just not reality.
Yeah, and that's another conversation when it comes to, because school districts and the education our kids receive also impacts who buys in the area.
And that was why I was tying it in, because
Yeah.
it plays a fact in what I've done in my life, because I see things are different now than they were as I get ready to get married and go, okay, what do I need to do?
Am I happy? I think one of the things that I always point out to my buyers is the tax rate. Like the neighborhood I live in, we're fortunate our tax rate before homestead exemption is 1.5. But most of the new neighborhoods, because they offer so many new amenities and new water and things that people need to live in a community, the rates are higher. The tax rate's higher. And then we won't even talk about what our appraised value is from the county, because that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
So it's all really, though it would seem should be very easy to understand, it's all really complicated how different things impacts other things.
If you can buy without a mud district, it helps.
Oh, yeah. If you can.
My last home, and I'm trying to remember, I think my total tax bill was around $7,500. And half of that tax bill was the mud district.
Yeah.
To this day, I would bet you if I went back to friends that were neighbors that I think are still there, they'd tell me that mud district that was supposed to pay for itself and go away. I don't think there's a whole lot of our mud districts that actually did what they were.
Well, they have to continue improving aging infrastructure. They have to maybe build a new park. But it is sad. It's like I remember, it's not the same thing, but I remember the Hardy Toll Road.
Yes.
I would use that to get from U of H home or to what we would call North Harris, up on Aldine Westfield for summer school. And they said, well, eventually the toll's going to go away. The toll doesn't go away.
No.
So.
It doesn't. But how many of us would go anywhere without the toll roads?
Oh, right. It's
To
convenience,
Katy.
a convenience factor.
Friends and family in Katy. To get to Katy with 99 is a whole different world than it was before we had toll roads. It was up to 10 and then over. And then, there were certain places homes weren't, but when you get into Seco Ranch and that part of what made Katy, that toll road runs right through the middle of everything important over there.
I remember going to see my grandparents in Fayette County on I-10. There used to be rice fields to the left of me, to the right of me. I remember the silos. And now there's just home after home after home. Texas is a popular place to move to. Everybody wants to come to Texas. And I don't blame them. I'm thankful that I was born and raised here.
Yeah, me too. But has it changed? I remember Mom and Dad brought us from Houston, Dad's first business was Telephone Road in Auburndale, and you hit right over off of 45. My grandmother and my great-grandparents lived next door, right down Auburndale, and Dad had the station that was right at there when I was a kid.
Okay.
So, and then that station, I think, became a Greyhound, and there's been a lot of things. The building's still there, but, that isn't the same world.
No, it's different.
It's all different. But I do see some gentrification that's coming over there. Is other cultures move in, and the things that they're doing with homes are immaculate. You love to. I love to drive by and see some of the things as they've remodeled homes, and you can see what various cultures will do and how they do things different. I love to see the different cultures of colors that may have come from various parts. And as I see that, it's just kind of one of those things that you go, this is kind of cool to see the differences in that. But the changes in communities, too, from going to you don't want to drive through there as you slowly see them be revitalized and change.
It's slow and happening, but they have been trying, like Magnolia Gardens for since before 2000. That's an area that they've saw that they were going to see gentrification. The Third Ward, we're at Riverside Terrace. That's another amazing community that have a friend that bought another friend's house there, and he is slowly buying the old mansions in Riverside and sprucing them up and turning them into other ventures. And it's beautiful.
Oh, they do that in the Heights too.
They're, yeah, I think they try to do it. Again, unfortunately, a lot of the homes in the Heights, when they were first built, they were front porches, clapboard homes on blocks. And so probably a lot of the traditional what they would consider middle class back then homes probably got torn down where they could throw up townhomes. And that's the high density. Houston, is working really hard into the high density piece, because before we didn't have the high density. We're not like New York.
Yeah.
And now if you drive through Shepherd and Durham, what you see is that's all you see. You see either the tall 3-story row housing, or you see the 8 houses on one little postage size lot. So
moving out here, Dad sold his race car, bought the property. I grew up on an acre. Moved in one of the older homes you were talking about that was on blocks. Leveled that, skirted it, then added on a 2-story. So I guess we'd have called it 1.5 back then. The back part was 2-story. And it was a nice home that Dad built. It's amazing, though, as a kid, how big things look. And when you drive back by it as a kid. And Mom and Dad, when I got married and graduated, they sold that house and left and went to a lot more property. Dad had me mow back then. I'm glad, but now that I take care of,
hopefully you had a mower. I mean, like a riding lawnmower.
But he would then tell me, "You mow that in second gear." So when he wasn't looking, I'd go to third gear and slow it back down so I could get it done. But now with their place, it's 3.5 acres, and I actually mow because it relaxes me, and I can put Audible on
and listen to a book.
Yeah, and my fiance loves to play. And she's like, "I'm going to come mow," and I'm like, No, you can ride on the mower, but that's where I relax.
I can understand that. I like that too. I don't like edging. No, but mowing I can do. Well, kind of like how you guys moved out of the city and further out, and it just seems in time the city kind of followed you. And that happened in Houston. Houston, the first subdivision was the Heights, where their trolley stopped. And it just spread and spread. And like what we're experiencing right now in Montgomery County, we're seeing that similar growth. Look, George Mitchell, I would have loved to met the man.
Oh, yeah.
Because what he and his team put together with the Woodlands is just phenomenal. It's amazing. It's amazing. And so that's what's happening now in Magnolia. We're seeing the city center type, I don't want to call it city center, the town center, where you have all these conveniences coming out to the country. And it's important that we recognize that there is a need, and we have a controlled growth. We don't say, no, you can't do it. We say, okay, this is going to happen. So how can we keep how can we keep a good feel? How can we keep that country feel? Because just with Magnolia, we're both in the Southwest Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. And so we're seeing around us, we're seeing neighborhoods come up on the county lines that are going to stretch from one county into another, from one FM road it's going to touch another FM road. And so we're going to see this. So we all need to work together with those developers.
Yeah.
So it can still, their vision and what they want their development to look like can still mirror the what we want.
Some of what you get to deal with now is pretty amazing. When you look at, we'll say, two-step farms or some of the new developments in there, they are bringing entertainment, and I'm not sure about two-step farms, but some of them, they're bringing amphitheater theaters where they can have concerts, and they are building communities where people can almost just stay in their community outside of work, but when they get home, even for entertainment, that there's a lot to do in their community that when I was growing up, I didn't go do it. I wouldn't go into the local pool, I mean, just...
I think it was different because it was a lot smaller back then, too. You were closer to everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, two neighborhoods that are gorgeous for out in our neck of the woods, Colton and Creston, are two that they have put so much thought into what the neighborhood looks like.
Do you remember the Boot Worship Center?
Yeah.
The
So
Boot Welcome Center in one of our neighborhoods.
that's so yeah. So I think we need to not get ahead of ourselves and just realize, there's a lot to being a community. And that's, part of the pleasure that I get with being a realtor is I get to see, all these new communities come about and figure out how we can get people a great home and community to live in, because the schools have got to be good. If our schools are great, I mean, Magnolia ISD and Montgomery ISD, two great school districts that that parents would want their kids living in. Magnolia's student count currently is still low enough where, you're not having a 4,000 population class in one school like some of the larger, school districts have. So I know Magnolia, they have the bond that they're trying to get passed, and the superintendent and the board have been trying really hard to get what the kids need and still keep that small town feel. So that's why people move out.
Yeah, we're not going to take this political.
No.
But when I say that, I listened to a clip where somebody was against the bond. And one of the things that they mouthed off to, and I'm paraphrasing, was they didn't get what they want last time, so they just come back. There was no truth in that statement whatsoever. That was an opinion that somebody spouted out there trying to put it out as fact, and that is not what happened. The community called and said, we don't want to pay for this, this, and this. And that is where Dr. Bullock and Dr. Morris said, okay. They went back to the drawing board and gave us something because the population is growing.
You're not going to stop
You're
it.
not going to stop people from coming. I don't think as a community, if you'll pay attention, that we want 4,000 or 5,000 in our classrooms in the high school, which means we, as taxpayers, they're coming.
People don't, that's why they're coming here, because
Exactly.
it's smaller class count, better teachers.
That's right. And I don't think people realize the very beginning where it says this is taxable or whatever the exact word is, that was legislation. That municipal bond at this point in time, we're not paying for it. And I use that to go, you can buy municipal bonds, but as people go, well, sometime I am, that allows the communities to develop to where we have a bigger tax base so that your tax rates are not going up, and it can help pay for this. And like I said, it's not political. Vote how you want to. But understand what you're up against and stop running your mouth about your feelings, because I can tell you as a feeling, I hate any new taxes.
Oh, yeah, we all do.
And for those that are renting, if you believe you're not paying taxes, again, news for you, that landlord, apartments or whatever, it's baked into what you're paying.
Right.
So we're all paying for this stuff. Just make sure you know what your vote is. And if you still choose to vote no or yes, just make it your opinion, but don't go onto somebody's website and go, oh, here's a video that was put out here and I agree. Because a lot of times they sound good, but they're based just on how you feel. And, and I get it. Most of us don't want to pay anymore. We already, as a family, we need every penny that we have because it's going to fund everything else.
Right.
So community leadership. I think I've noticed you do a lot with our chamber, and sometimes I forget the fact that you are actually my ambassador because
I know you don't call me back.
things move. So when did I not call you back? Because I can tell you if I don't, it's because I forget.
Right, that's okay.
That we have. So you do a lot with ambassadors, other committees. I think with Christmas, even though you may be on it year round, I'll show up at Christmas for the parade.
Oh, I got lucky. I got to be a judge at the last Christmas
Well, very
parade.
good.
It was hard. I think they're simplifying some things with the judging process, but I grew up going to the St. Patrick's Day parade on 1960 up in
Yeah.
Houston. So it is amazing to have a community come together for a parade, especially holiday parade with Santa and supporting each other. And that parade can keep us, that as we grow, that will still reground us because it's an opportunity for the communities to connect, the community leaders, people that live in the community connect.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. Yeah, that's one of
And
my
it's
favorite
grown.
events.
The chamber does
Yes.
such a good job. Tomball and Magnolia's parades. I can remember Dad with his various cars being in whether it be Tomball or Magnolia's parade. Had fun, but when it comes to me, when we were messing with doing everything we did to set up before it hit
lot of
time,
work.
yeah, it was, and I didn't mind, and I came back on Sunday to help tear. But when it reached time for people to start showing up, is when I went, I'm out of here, guys. I don't want to be in this traffic. I grew up here, so I'm going to leave now, and we'll come back tomorrow when there's more work to do and tear down.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing, as you see pictures and stuff, it's a lot of fun for the kids. It gives them something to do, and
And who's not happy to see Santa?
that's right.
Yeah.
Unless you're married to them, and then you're going, can
That's
you
a
drop
totally
a few
different
pounds?
story.
So I want to talk a little bit about Love Hills Youth involvement and leadership. Tell us about your role with that, and tell us what it is.
Thank you for asking, because Love Hills Youth provides mental health care. It started off providing mental health care to the kids in the foster system. We have a lot of kids in the foster system that don't get adopted, that don't get to live with foster families, that live in group homes, that we get a chance to help their mental state, and also it's evolved into so much more. Rebecca Smith Nash is the founder, and she started this organization. She doesn't take a salary. This is truly an affair of the heart, because her heart hurts for when one of those children, when they're hurt. We had an event at the Market Street identifying all the kids that have passed away in the foster system. And as I'm standing there and we had a balloon release. As I'm standing there with her, I look over and she is bawling because she feels this in her soul. And it is an honor to work with her because of the love she has for these kids. But she's got a great group of counselors. Every month we do leadership days in which the children from the group homes get to come to. Commissioner Walker has donated space in Montgomery County for us to have these days. A day of counseling where they do group stations. They rotate. We have a clothing closet where the kids can go shopping. And there was one day that I was there helping one of the kids look through for clothes. She's picking up a small, not realizing she's probably more of a large. And it just dawned on me that she's never been taken clothes shopping, because she's been in the foster system since she was 7, 8 years old. So it's very, very sad that these children are forgotten about. But with Love Hills Youth, we have a chance to love them. We have a chance to pray over them. We have faith partners, and we're always looking for faith partners who provide a lunch and that can come help with being part of the counseling session at the different tables, and also with the clothing closet. So we have drives for hygiene products. We have welcome home bags that are filled with Bible, hygiene products, various items for the kids, because whenever a child comes to a group home, they come normally either with a grocery bag stuff, or they have come with nothing. So we make sure that they have something. We'll bring the clothing. We have a mobile clothing closet, so we'll take them to the group homes where the kids can actually go shopping. So We provide, and we start teaching them life skills so they can process information so they can be a productive part of society. Because at the age of 18, they age out. If they're lucky enough, they go to a place like Angel Reach. But a lot of times the kids wind up on the side of the road. They either get trafficked, they get hooked on drugs, or they wind up in the prison system. We have 80% of the inmates in the United States has involvement in the child welfare system. I mean, could you imagine? You have kids, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine your child living in a room with 4 other kids, not getting told that they're loved, that I love you, that you provide their needs? That when I just sit here talking about it, it really hurts my heart.
It's something I think that a lot of us take for granted. So many of us in our friends, so we tend to grow up in our bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed in our communities, most of us were raised with our parents. Mm-hmm. We didn't need, it wasn't that mom and dad didn't do their best to teach you responsibility. Like with me, I'm an only child. So therefore, growing up, I wanted a digital watch. I remember that. And Dad's motto was, I will pay for half, but you have to pay for the other. And he would create jobs. Acre fence, I had to go rake all the leaves up, put them in a pile, and that's how I earned my part. And I remember it was a $17 watch. But with that being said, we tend to forget that to us was normal. And then you realize there are kids, they didn't grow up with that safety. I've talked to some of my friends. I lost Dad 5 years ago. Another one of my friends had lost his dad about 7 or 8 years ago. That we all grew up with him. Gen X, our dads were rocks. Our dads protected that family from most of us, meaning baby boomers were those of us that are X. So we take advantage of the fact of how we were raised and don't realize that there are kids that are not raised with that protection from their mom and dad to where the real world doesn't start hitting them. It's hit as mom and dad allows it to hit them. And then you see real life when you're out on your own. That there are kids that it's day one that for whatever reason they weren't born with responsible parents. I remember as a kid, girls' country. Mom and dad, we had friends that were house parents out there. And there were a couple of girls that would come to the house that it was just a weekend getaway for them. They'd get them on Friday and take them back on Sunday. But it was so that they could go do something on their own. I've often wondered what happened to them. We were teenagers, younger, 14, 15, that type of stuff. But, I think as an only child, if I was honest, there's probably always a little bit of that. I don't want other people in my house, even though you're nice because mom and dad tell you to. But you tend to grow up and go, my world's changing. And as an adult, you go, there's no telling what that meant for the help, of just getting away, that vacation. What that means to the kids that you help. Because I don't think a lot of us stop if it doesn't affect our world and realize there are kids that grow up without basic food, or even parents that are there doing their best. They eat dinner. Now when I only eat dinner, it's just because I stay so busy that I just go, I'm not stopping to eat. But it's a choice. And when things in life are a choice versus you don't have a choice, this is your only option, I think we take it for granted.
Well, these kids are in the shadows. They're not seen. And a lot of the kids move between 3 to 10 times a year. So you wonder why they're, to the average person, you might look at them and think they have behavioral issues. But the problem is it's fight or flight. And so we try at Love Hills Youth, we do try to give them some stability. They know that every month they're going to come to our leadership day and they're going to get a chance to get treated kindly, respected, loved, prayed over. And that's one of the benefits with having the faith partners. They come in and they bring a home-cooked meal. Yeah. And so there's one group that's really good smokers. And so the meal that they bring is amazing. So the kids get that stability. At least we try to give them that consistency. We have a concert coming up in September that focuses most on the kids. Most the kids are invited. You have nonprofits have galas. We have the concert that we try to raise money at. It's for the kiddos so they can be a normal teenager, and go to someplace fun. And then we have the gala that's in January that we try to raise money so we can do all the things during the course of the year.
Well, that is good.
So, but it's an amazing organization. It's Love Hills Youth, and we'd love for people to take a look at it.
So as we transition from there, I want to go into your involvement with Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
Because that's another one. And I think, first of all, with Love Hills Youth, what can people do to help your group out? Let's go with that for contact information.
Yeah.
And how initially they can get involved to help these children.
We are always looking for faith partners that can come to our day of counseling. We're always looking for organizations to come help out of the clothing closet to sort clothes and get that organized. We're always looking for drives for full-size hygiene products, blankets, coats. We want to introduce more and more people to what goes on with the foster system. There's a movie out there, as The Sound of Hope. That's an amazing movie by Angel Studios, and it really depicts what happens and how this one little town in East Texas was a success because they got all the kids out of the system and got them adopted. But just know that we're out there, and follow us on social media, Love Hills Youth. Our concert's in September. Love to connect.
And what county is that concert in?
It's in Montgomery County. We have it at the Table.
Okay.
And it's an outside venue, and we have some great performers. Peyton Riley has been a supporter of ours since the beginning. She's an amazing artist, great young adult. Her and her family are just amazing, and we appreciate all that she's done for us. Our last concert, we had the Heels there that came in from Nashville. So we recognize therapy through music, and we just know that we want the kids noticed, and if we can share that information to everyone in Montgomery County to come out and learn more about us, because little by little we can make a difference. We hope to eventually have the kids not have to be in these group homes.
That is good. So let's talk
But
now.
Make-A-Wish, yeah.
Make-A-Wish. That is something I love. We see a lot of our. I am not a person. If you were a star and you walk by me, I'm not asking for your autograph. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy watching your stuff, but you put your pants on the same way as me. And nobody's ever asked for my autograph hosting a podcast or two, so why am I going to ask for The Rock's autograph or somebody?
Right.
No, say that tongue in cheek, but you do see with Make-A-Wish a lot of sports stars and others, because it seems like a lot of kids, they want to go do, whether it's WWE wrestling or the NFL or Major League Baseball or something, there's somebody they follow. So tell me a little bit about Make-A-Wish.
Yeah, Make-A-Wish provides wishes to children who are critically ill, and we do. There's all whatever your heart could come up with, and what the wish granters try to get done to make your wish come true. I'm a wish granter. I've been involved with Make-A-Wish since probably 2002. Granted a ton of wishes, and you get to see children, children who are sick, and it's sad because no baby should be sick. Mm-hmm. It sometimes you sit there and have a conversation with God, and you just, Lord, heal this poor child. But the kids get a chance to come up with something fun, but it's also a big thing for the family, because it gives the child and the family an opportunity to be normal, to forget about that they're sick. And
part of what I think is hard is those of us are parents. There's a tremendous amount of empathy all of a sudden that hits us overwhelming. Mm-hmm. 93Q, their annual thing for our hospital, I have to turn it off because I can't have myself as a grown man and my choice driving down the road
crying,
where every story has you in tears. And when you look at Make-A-Wish and what the children are going through, but what mom and dad are going through. I mean,
and that's the beauty of the wish, because any parent seeing their child happy makes them happy.
Yeah.
And a lot of the wishes I've done have been travel wishes: Disney World, Hawaii. I think one of the coolest wishes was a young girl who wanted to see the northern lights from Switzerland.
That is sweet.
So she added in, we got a twofer. We got to go to Switzerland, we got to go skiing, but we also got to see the northern lights. And so whenever we can make a wish where it's amazing, then that's great. Now, that was before COVID. Lots of things have changed, but we're going back to travel wishes. We had to stop travel wishes during COVID. But most recently, a little girl who has a heart condition, and she is, she can't travel. So we're trying to figure out a way how we can make a Disney wish come true with maybe an experience where Disney characters come to her. So, and sports athletes, yes, every child wants to be a basketball or a baseball star or a football star. So the kids, they get a bunch of kids together at one time. They get to meet like different soccer players or whoever the famous person is, or Taylor Swift or the different stars that are out there. So we make the kids give us a couple choices, just in case we can't make one come true. But the beauty is that it's a good opportunity for families to be normal.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District on the board. Let's talk a little bit about that and how that affects Montgomery County. I know that that's a passion of yours.
Yeah, I am so fortunate to be able to be on the board of the Groundwater District. Water is life, right? We need water for everything. I don't know. I have water in my cup. You have something made with water probably in your
Coffee.
cup. Yeah. So our groundwater district is just doing some amazing things. Recently, we had a rain barrel campaign where we sold over 400 rain barrels to the residents of Montgomery County, and we have a waiting list.
So tell people what they can do with the rain barrels for, let's say we've got, as a realtor, I'm sure you sell to first-time home buyers.
Yeah. In fact, I bought one to give away to my next buyer.
Very good.
Because, we're in the Gulf Coast. We're in the Gulf Coast aquifer. We're a very prolific aquifer. But we still, just like being a parent, you got to take care of what's around you. You take care of your home. You take care of your car. You take care of yourself. And so by using a rain barrel, considering a rain barrel for your gardening needs, you can save, I'm not sure, don't remember what the number was that our education department came up with, but you can save a ton of water by utilizing a rain barrel and watering your flower beds using that water from the rain barrel. And we, our conservation efforts, that was part of our conservation efforts. Now you'll see some other things come out from the district, purple pipe. You'll see
Tell me what purple pipe is.
It's just part of reclaiming, basically using the water differently. There's even talk of maybe a cisterns. Remember if you go back to, I love Houston history. So if you go back to some of the old pictures, even in Conroe, you see the big barrels on top of stands for cisterns. And so water is going to be a hot topic at the next session. And everyone just has to come together and come up with alternative ways that we can conserve water. A little bit of water conservation through different means of managing the water can make a difference in the end.
So how does it handle it differently? And I know it does, or you wouldn't do it, versus our water getting back into the aquifer and replenishing our wells and stuff, and versus, I see a big deal of capturing rainwater for a lot of your plants and stuff, where you can put a spigot at the bottom of that barrel that goes in the top and use your hose still, where you can go
and water
with gravity and water your plants and stuff. But tell people a little bit about what the difference is as to how one is more immediate, and I don't think people realize the time frame to get back into the aquifer.
For the recharge. So our recharge area is up in northern Montgomery County, and it takes a little longer. That's why as the water runs off and gets absorbed back into the aquifer, we then have to come up with maybe some other ways that we could do the humanly piece. That's Mother Nature there. It's getting back into the ground and getting back into the aquifers. But we can use the rain barrels. We can use the cisterns. We can consider maybe more drought-tolerant plantings. We've grown up in this area with San Augustine, and beautiful flower beds, azaleas, and all that. So maybe we reconsider. That's one of the things within Colton and Creston. They're using more drought-resistant plantings, which is great. Even here in our area, you're seeing more drought-tolerant plants that you don't require as much water. I mean, I live on over an acre, and I have a natural spring in my side yard that I see my ditches, unless it's a drought in which we get no rain. I always see water in my ditches just because the water is bubbling up. So and there's different parts of Texas that have different water needs and water things that they're working through. But I can say from a board perspective and from our management perspective of the district, very, very conscientious of what we can do with conservation, and we can have a mix between surface water and groundwater, and we promote that. In fact, because we work with you have SJRA that provides surface water from Lake Conroe to certain parts of Montgomery County. But like I said, all my water that I get in my neighborhood is groundwater. We don't have any transmission lines that feed us.
Yeah, very good. So you're a realtor.
Yes, sir.
You sit on a couple of board of directors. You give back to the community a lot, whether it's through our chamber or Make-A-Wish or your other charities for our children. How do you balance it all?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. It takes a great calendar, and just being a realtor is what enables me to give back to my community, and that's it. My community, my clients, my goal in life is just to give back, and if it's through helping someone find the right home or the right location for a business, or if it's educating our community on ways that we can help one another, because if we're not giving back. I always thought God did not put me on this planet just to take. I'm here to give. So, it's I just have to budget my time, but a lot of times it overlaps because, like with the chamber, I can share information about what's going on with the Lone Star Groundwater District. If I run into my clients and I hear they have a sick child, I'm like, well, try to get more information, maybe a wish. Yeah. Or you want to volunteer, you want to be more active in the community. Have you thought about Love Hills Youth? I try to be a connector.
So we'll talk about that later. As you know me well enough to know what my time is like, but yes, I do want to talk about.
I'll pencil you in for some therapy sessions.
No, don't joke. I've been before. I laughed and was saying I probably need to go again. There is a magic number in my head that I need to get get a virtual assistant. Because I enjoy what we do through our communities. Mm-hmm. It is when I have to go sit back at that desk and start taking care of quotes and paperwork and,
Well, that's what enables you, having that business is what enables you to give back to the community as much as you have. Same way with your dad. His business enabled him to be part of the community like he was. So I know you have it in you. It's innate.
What I learned from my dad. My dad once told me, and my dad was one of my best friends, but he was like, "You think I'm dumb?" No, Dad, I don't think you're dumb. I think you do some dumb things, but I don't think you're dumb. Because I used to joke and tell Dad, if there's a line, I'm going to walk up to that line, and I am going to stretch as far as I can over that line, but my feet are going to stay on one side. I said, you're going to walk up to that line and put your foot over it and look and go, I didn't get in trouble. Let's see. Don't touch this car. Now, don't touch his car. I used to laugh and go, but you're probably going to step over that line and never touch the car, but look closer and go, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Dad's motto was ask for do it and ask for forgiveness later.
That's funny.
Mine is be very cautious with that. It doesn't mean I don't do it, but it's be cautious who I do it to.
Yeah.
With my fiance, I'd rather just tell her, this is what I'm doing. Are you okay with it?
That's I think that's the best practice.
Exactly.
Yes.
So let's as we're getting into the close down part, it's just tea.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, what your goals are with it, and I know it's been a passion of yours. We've talked about it for a while, so tell us what your ideal guest is and that kind of stuff.
It's Just Tea is a podcast for the 55 plus community. Now, the 55 plus could be you be 55, or it could mean that you have a parent that's 55. But 55 seems to be the year where we're either getting close to retirement, or we are retiring, and you're not, working really, really hard to climb that corporate ladder, and you're finding that you have new responsibilities. And so the goal of the podcast is to provide a resource, provide people that you can hear what they have to offer. It could be from a will, a trust, investments, RV dealer talking about, that you're going to get that new Thigpen. It could be what's your hobby? It could be on cigars. It could be a travel agent. Where are you going to go spend your $20,000 on your big vacation this year? Ideally it comes back to homes, because in our community we are finding more and more 55 plus communities, and there's a reason for that. Is because everyone is getting to a point where they don't need the big house anymore, but they still want to be social. So a lot of the 55 plus communities are very social. You don't spend your time doing that huge yard anymore, or cleaning that big house. You have an opportunity to connect more. And I'm realizing as we're all getting older, hopefully we're all aging, because if we're not, the alternative is not good. But
except as a believer, sometimes I ask myself, I don't want to rush it, but is the alternative worse for me or not? I mean, I get put in timeout and told to shut up for a while, which would be very difficult. Or I continue to get up every morning and work really hard.
I think lots of people would say they don't want the alternative for you. They want you to be in that 65 plus.
For anybody listening, that was a joke.
Yes, yeah. So but with the 55 and older, there's a whole new conversation. And every friend I run into, I'm like, that have children that are, say, 50. I'm like, do you have your will, or do you have that trust? And hopefully, the answers are getting fewer. That yes, I have it, or no, I don't. If you don't have it, then you get a lecture from me about how you need it. Something I learned during this process is a lot of parents who send their kids off to college. And again, they're probably 50, 55 by the time kids go to college. I'm like, have you gotten a power of attorney over them? Because if they're 18 and God forbid something happens to them and they're not in a position to make a medical decision for them, you automatically think they're my child, I'm going to make the decision. Well, if they're 18, you don't have that right anymore. So do you have that power of attorney before you load your Suburban up to take your kid up to tech to go to school? It's little tidbits like that I hope to accomplish. It's just tea is because, coffee, tea, whatever beverage it is that you put into that coffee cup is just an opportunity to slow down for a little bit, to learn a little bit of information that could be beneficial to you for your personal life, to maybe help your parents as they age. Because it's complicated. Getting old, it's complicated.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. It's not at all. And so I just want to, again, I want to provide answers, or I want to provide a connection, so to make your life a little easier. And that's my goal is, what can I do to help you?
I told somebody, I've got a friend, he is younger than me, he's still in his 30s, and I said, what I'm telling you can't understand until you're in your 50s. I said, here are two things that you're going to realize. The first one is that memory that remembers everything, you will give up some memory for wisdom.
Okay.
My intelligence snaps level is I know where to get it. But you want to debate me with facts? You did not want to do that in my 20s and 30s. My mind was snap, snap, snap. I was going to make you leave a conversation and have to go figure out if I knew what I was talking about or not. Now, it's wisdom. It is me to determine things. It is handling things that would have frustrated you in your 30s or 40s, that you go, sit back and reassess it. We've discussed some of those things where it wasn't anybody's fault. It was my difference in opinion that I had to learn how to go, it's okay, just leave it alone. You know? And the other thing I told him was, you will walk up right now, look at something, yank it up and move it. I said, at your age, I did that. I said, something about hitting 50 is you walk up to it and you walk around it and you think, this is going to hurt. How's the easiest way? Because you still can physically do it. You just physically don't do it without repercussions of hurting, and you figure out the best way to reach up and grab it and move it. Where years before it was like, here we go. Now it's like, ooh.
So when did that happen?
Yes, that's exactly right. When did it happen? Because I think you slowly start thinking and changing. And when your parents as a young kid have told you, your dad says, that's going to hurt later in life, he actually knows what he's talking about. Because all of a sudden you'll feel something going, I heard that back in 1982. Why am I feeling that now in 2026?
That's funny. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I want you to give young entrepreneurs or old entrepreneurs your definition of success and kind of give them one little tidbit of advice.
Be happy in your own skin and in your choices that you make, and realize that the choices you do make will have repercussions down the road. So not working hard when you're younger, you'll find out when you're older, well, should have worked a little bit harder. But no time spent focused on doing something that will benefit a human being is not time wasted.
Yeah.
Always come from contribution. And if you come from contribution, then the world will take care of you.
Yeah, I also, another way I say it is, karma is something else.
Yes, it is. And it's true.
I'm not going that I believe, per se, as a Christian in karma, but I will tell you, I do believe what comes around goes around in life. The way you treat people when you're younger, when you get older, you're going to start seeing some semblances of I remember doing that.
Oh, wow.
I see semblances of learning to temper my personality. As I've already told you, I cannot stand people being irresponsible. You want to make me mad? Be irresponsible and shirk your responsibilities. And that's what it is. It's your life is your life. But when you see you're refusing to handle your responsibilities, or you have this entitled attitude, do not try to justify how I owe you anything, how my paycheck needs to go. I once had a friend ask me, because they're going, well, there needs to be more tax dollars for food bank. And he looked at the person and he said, when's the last time that you and your husband went to a food bank and worked? Well, I haven't. He goes, then don't you dare ask me for my money, because you can go work yourself and get involved in the community. What you want to do is feel good about yourself. So if you're going to ask me for money, when I ask you, what have you done lately, you probably better say, Clint, I work with these children all the time, and we need to find an alternative, and it's going to hurt a little bit. And then I listen, because you're taking responsibility for that.
That's great. Well, I know from seeing different kids growing up in the community that we've got some great parents out there that are teaching their children, right from wrong, and how to give back, and how to be responsible, and how to think creatively for our future. So there is great hope.
Yeah. Well, part of why I told you I wanted to talk to you about your one part that you do with the kids that is part of figuring out. I don't have a lot of time, but it has made me realize I was blessed. Not that mom and dad didn't have faults, but as I told my daughter when she had her first kid years ago, I said, try not to screw him up too bad and try not to let him die. And I said, kiddo, I'm telling you this because as a parent, none of us know what we're doing. We think we know what we're doing, but life is about trying to parent to your kid's personality and teach them responsibility, and teach them that they will respect authority. So if a parent says that's enough, then that kid closes their mouth. It's not a argue with mom and dad like we see so often. But I went, none of us know what we're doing. I said, and when you're young and you want to beat yourself up with the relationship you and I have, do you know how grateful I am you don't remember the first couple of years of your life while I'm trying to learn how to parent and I'm getting no sleep? And you can't help it. You're a baby. You can't fend for yourself. The only way to tell them is to cry, and you're learning this stuff. So, that's kind of where we go to giving back, because these poor kids, we forget there are kids that have never experienced the life that a lot of us have, which is a kid. And I go, my job was to protect my daughter growing up at all costs. Let her be as comfortable to where I'm creating the discomfort, meaning for life, but life is not creating so much discomfort, because as we know as adults, life can make us pretty uncomfortable while we're figuring out how to react. So as we wrap this up, let's go to the lightning round.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
I'm somewhere in the middle these days.
Somewhere in the
I
middle.
used to be an early bird, but not quite as early as I want to be.
Well, if I was an early bird, I'd fall out of a tree because I'd wake up and then end up laying back down. One word that describes your leadership style.
Encouraging delegator.
Favorite way to recharge.
Sitting with my puppies on my lap, watching the wind spiral go around in the backyard.
Favorite quote or mantra.
I don't have one.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
What's one word clients would use to describe you?
Probably kind.
And you listen. You listen when you could tell people to shut up.
Will you tell my husband that? That I'm a listener?
That does not mean you listen to your husband. It means you listen to your friends. You may listen to your husband, but, as I laugh, I notice we tend to listen a lot to our friends, and what I figured out is it's because at the time that conversation's open, our friends go to their family. So it's done, and we're not having to. Poor Alicia, there are times she will listen to me talk about individuals with leadership in their businesses and the things they're missing, the simple things like why isn't there a task list so each employee knows. And I need to just let her have her day, and that poor girl will talk to me, and then she has to listen to me tell her how things could be managed differently in various businesses that she's come across going, this is what that company could do. And she's sitting there going, I'm not on your podcast. We're not talking business.
That's funny.
So, hey, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I appreciate your mentorship as my ambassador. I appreciate everything that you do with our chamber, with the water board, with Make-A-Wish, with your other community, activism. Which is that again for our children?
Love Hills Youth.
Love Hills Youth. See, that was a little bit long for a name for me today with everything else.
I know. I had a lot of my stuff had long words.
Yeah. So your story is a reminder of how you can have success and give back. So thank you very much. To all of our listeners, this program is nonprofit. Lone Star Community Radio puts it on. We need you to be able to go back. You can do donations and sponsorships. As this radio station, it's not just my show. It is a lot of shows that they give their time to host. And there's a cost to their time and a cost to the facility we're allowed to come in. And if you're enjoying what you're hearing, then please make sure that you get in touch with Lone Star Community Radio and do what you can to get back to help this establishment. It's amazing. To our listeners, we thank you. If you know of a business that you think has a good story, contact us and we'll see if we can't get them on the radio station. And until next time, we want you to keep showing up, keep building, and keep it genuine. Thank you very much.